4, just for effects. Hello. Well, welcome. You're listening to Connected Dr. Anne Marie. We're all connected in one way or another, and this show is about people empowering people, preferably through the arts. And I don't like cameras, and the camera's supposed to be just on this beautiful young lady that's sitting next to me. And if you're watching this through YouTube, you'll know what I am talking about. Once again, welcome to another episode of Connected Dots. I'm very excited to be here today. It's been a while since I've been doing new live broadcasts. However, it's almost impossible not to, because in this city, St. Petersburg, we have such incredible talent. And wherever I go, I get motivated to want to talk to people and learn and just understand, the dynamics behind all the amazing energy flow. With that being said, today my guest is Miss Nancy Niss. Good morning, Nancy.
It is a good morning.
And it's always a good morning when you're around Nancy. If you're around in the afternoon, good afternoon. She'll say it with the same enthusiasm. If it's nighttime, she'll say it with the same enthusiasm. And that's what life is all about. And that's why I'm so happy and excited to get an opportunity to interview you, or to chat with you today, not interview you. Nancy Niss is very integrated in our art community here in St. Petersburg, Florida. I met Nancy through Facebook, how I have met a lot of people here in St. Petersburg. We have an amazing, amazing community within Facebook that we all follow each other. Yeah, but that's what community is all about. So it makes it a little easier for us here to continue to communicate. And in the process, we're sharing with the world everything that's going on here. But there is a sense of community. Good, bad, or indifferent, we do have a great community.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to go out and play with all the different people and learn what they do and just be immersed in that atmosphere, that creative atmosphere.
Nancy, so in order for our audience to have a better understanding of why I'm so excited that you're here today, who are you?
Oh, good question, because there's so many different facets. I was raised in a multicultural household with people from all over the world, different foods. They'd cook different foods. We'd hear different languages. So I was exposed to a lot of different thought, different religions, different clothing, different everything. And I always found that really intoxicating. And it allowed me to see so many different ways I could express myself through just the different feelings that people would show me and the different colors. And so...
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt. Where was this?
I was born in Lafayette, Indiana.
Wow.
My dad taught at Purdue while he was getting his PhD there.
Minor detail.
So his graduate students, he'd bring them home and they'd cook for us, and it would really be a lot of fun. So, and my parents allowed me to explore my creativity. So they had little art classes at Purdue and stuff. And eventually, when I was 12, I had to learn how to sew. So I learned how to sew, and then I wanted to do watercolor, so I did watercolor. And then I liked wood, so I built wood furniture. And then I had a house, and then I started doing electrical work and concrete work and plumbing and this and that. So I like to try different things because I feel that I can do it. Why not? How hard could it be? And so I just dive into different projects just because I feel I can.
And those are things that you learned throughout the years, but did you learn that at Purdue?
No. Most my parents sent me to Purdue just to be around people, to be exposed to a whole different type of life. And so I took foreign language. So I am very fluent in Portuguese. So I do Portuguese interpreting, live interpreting, and I do translations, written translations. I was a court interpreter in Portuguese for a while. I took sociology. I took art. a little sewing. I took a variety of things, and then I've been able to use them professionally. Even though I really didn't graduate, I went 4 years and got this wonderful background. Traveled to Brazil, was there for 6 months, and then eventually married and went down there for a while. Was there for 5 years, and so it was just interesting to me.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't want you to move the chair or swing the chair.
Oh, I know, I do. I'm so
And I was
moving.
trying to be very nonchalant to find a way that I could put my foot maybe to stop it. But don't move. I interrupted her flow, and I'm so sorry because it had nothing to do with what you were saying. What happens is when we start moving like this, it starts getting like echoey. So I'm being the sound engineer and the interviewer. Yes. I'm so sorry about that.
You sound professional.
Now we're going back. So you went to Brazil. You lived in Brazil. You were there for 6 months.
I was there 6 months the first time, and then I went back and lived there for 5 years.
And
that was back in the 70s.
Now you mentioned to me, and one of the reasons why, first of all, I do admire everything you do, and I know a little more about your craft, your gifts. And I want to talk about the multi-talented Nancy-ness today, starting with one thing at a time. Now, one of the things you mentioned to me was that you always found a way on how to make a living as an artist or doing something that you were passionate about. And I found that's where the premise goes for me on, inviting you here today, how it started, because I am working on a series of the life of an artist and understanding what it takes to be an artist. And listening to Nancy and her history and her stories were very inspiring to me and puts things in perspective. She just mentioned that started back in the 70s, so a girl after my own heart. Woo-hoo!
Yeah, I was never a hippie girl, though. I was always on my own little path, doing my own thing in a totally different way. I never was part of that culture.
I have to tell you, me neither, but I did use hip huggers. I did go to the store and buy these little stars or different things that you could put onto your pants. Do you remember? I would put them like all the way down on one side, be fashionable. And I did wear my little cut up shirts. But other than that, I think still those of us that were just, in middle school or becoming teenagers in the 70s really were too young for the whole hippie thing. Because that was more...
I'm older than you are, so I was at a different point.
So you were totally exposed?
It was the 60s, so...
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
How cool, yeah.
And the Purdue demonstrations against the Vietnam War and everything, the sit-ins and stuff. Oh, yeah.
So you were able to see that firsthand?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy? Because I've been, doing some research because now as a landscape, I always say landscape. As a freelance journalist, I'm a landscape journalist.
The lay of the land.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. Just got some serious news here. Oh, it seems like we'll see what happens next. It has to do with a video we're producing. Anyway, let's go back to, I'm so glad that we're also recording this because I can cut this whole piece out. But I can't get it out there. Well, I can, but the way you see it is the way it's going to go on YouTube. Cool. So, yeah. But again, we are not here being pretentious. We're here to share our voices with the world, and any one word that can make a difference for somebody, so be it. And that's why I'm going to go back to why I invited Nancy to be here today, because she has had a long life experience within the arts and different facets
of the art. I looking back on it.
So with that, understanding that, and understanding, what it takes to be an artist and the life of an artist, how did you get started?
It was like I said, looking back, it was really, really interesting how it all came together, because when I was 12, I had this lightning bolt of, oh, you need to learn how to sew. It comes out of the universe from somewhere. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. So I learned to sew a lot on my own. And when I was 15, there was a wonderful, wonderful fabric shop in Indianapolis called Meadows Fabrics. And a very successful, fairly wealthy woman owned it. And she always dressed beautifully. And I thought, oh, I love that store. I buy all my fabric there. I made all my own clothes. And I said, oh, I'm 15 now. When I'm 16, I want to come work here. And they said, sure. So I went to work there. And I kept making my own clothes. And the owner came up to me one day, this polished, well-traveled woman who just knew everybody and everything. And she said, we love your sewing. We really love your sewing. May we have permission to put you in the professional dressmaker file? And I'm going, yeah, sure. Because when you're 16, you never give it a second thought of the implications of a person saying to a 16-year-old, let us put you in our professional dressmaker's file. So I started getting clients off the street that I didn't know, who paid me money to make them clothes and do alterations. And I've been self-employed for 50 years now, doing the same thing, but it's always interesting because of all the different people I work with, the different fabrics I get to work with. And I don't do just alterations and custom sewing. I'm an engineer. I make patterns, I draft, I work on very difficult fitting for people with very challenging bodies, be either to injury or birth or
Here
what.
comes one. I can attest to that one. And I'm going to jump in there. For example, right now I have, and this is a great place to insert this. We have an event coming up by the name of Exquisite Corpse. It's actually going to be, the exhibit is called the Parade of Corpse 2016. It will be at the Museum of Fine Arts here in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, on November 10th, 2016. And I am actually the MMCing, and I'm one of the organizers of the event. And so I want to make sure that I get dressed up as well and go all pretty. So I had a dress that I love that I bought years ago. So of course I do not fit in it like I used to. The good news is I still quite kind of fit in it. The bad news is the almost part. So I had to find a way. I thought, if there's a way, I would love to find out if there's a way I can salvage this dress and use it for the event. And I know if there's a will, there's a way. So my will was, let me find out, there has to be a way. And the way has a name called Nancy Ness. And that's how I came to Nancy. And I am so proud to announce and excited to say that I saw my dress and I put this dress that I love in her hands, that I would have either just kept it there until one day I get back to that side, blink, blink, or get it fixed and hopefully it'll still be beautiful and not ruined. And even if I don't get to use it. So I was a little concerned, I'm not gonna lie. However, I knew that I had gone to the best of the best. And this was my question. Can you do something? And she looked at it, and this is where that, when she said just now, I'm an engineer, I do patterns, that's exactly how she looked at the dress. She looked at it and said, yeah, there's something here I can do. I'll do it. And very simple. And so now I'm thinking, I bet you this is going to cost me more than the actual dress costs. So do I really want to do this? And she said, no, it's not going to be expensive at all. We can do this, that, that. I'm like, oh my gosh, woman. And I am very proud to announce that I tried on the dress the other day and she did it. So you are an engineer at your craft. You take it very seriously. You're very detail oriented. And I guess the reason why I'm emphasizing so much on it is because everybody's always trying to find the secret to the success. And if I am to, let's say, what I see in Nancy, I would say, and again, this is me making just some, comments. It's not necessarily facts, and that's why we're here to learn more from Nancy, factual information. But I would say that her I was gonna say your strengths. I totally lost my train of thought. I saw my phone go off. I looked at you and asked, where were we?
Well, the thing, I think one of the things that motivates me is unrelenting patience to get things right. And I had to teach myself patience to do things, because I always think, even now, after 50 years of sewing professionally, because I describe myself as a master tailor and designer, which I am, because I can do men's things that all the dead tailors used to do. All the Italian tailors, I can do these different things that not many people do anymore. And I had to teach myself that, Nancy, if you cut a corner now, you'll cut 2 tomorrow.
Wow, that's
And so you sit there and you make sure that you do it right, because you don't want to get into the habit of cutting corners, because then it'll go downhill from there. It's just how we are. People, it just can disintegrate on us so easily.
That's a very important and valid point. And I want to put it in perspective of what we're talking about, because also we're living in such a fast, technology-driven world that trying to make sure that you don't stay behind, and I should take the word trying out, making sure that you do things to not stay behind the times without jeopardizing and skipping steps of the way that certain things have proven to be successful to be done in a certain way. There's like a very fine line between that. And when it comes to the arts, in particular, to a craft, I think that that's where we really have to be very mindful of not cutting corners. Of course, there's ways of finding, depending on what your craft is.
You can be efficient
Correct.
Without cutting corners.
There you go.
And that's the whole point of many years of experience, that you find ways that work smoothly and efficiently so that you get the beautiful desired results. Because when I always tell my clients, whether I do alterations or whether I do custom design and sewing, I said, my dears, you will look better leaving a room than most people do coming in.
Oh, wow. I believe that. That's a very
Because
good.
no one looks at the back when they are wearing clothing, the way the slacks fit in the back. People don't look at that. They don't.
No, it's so ironic. Now I really know that I'm getting older, because I never used to look at the back. And now that's the only part I really do look at in the mirror. It's like when I get to the front, I'm like, oh, okay, no. Let me see how my hair looks good back here.
It's a total package. We are not one-dimensional thing. We are 3D.
We are 3D. We are 3D. Even though I try to leave the front 2D, which never been D, by the way. No, let's not go down that road.
No.
But that you're absolutely right. There is, you don't have to jeopardize. So it goes back to also that, quality. You don't have to jeopardize the quality of what you do over, trying to cut corners. There's a difference. Like you said, it's being efficient is one thing. You can find ways to automate certain things, but it doesn't mean that you're cutting corners. Do you agree with that?
And sewing is not automatable.
There you go.
It just is not. It is a very labor-intensive line of work. You can't mass produce it unless you're in a factory and have those magic machines. And I've seen these magic machines that can do miracles in sewing and cutting all by machine. It's amazing. But what I do is hand. I work by hand. I work one at a time. I work with people. with personalities, with lifestyles, with needs, with desires, with tastes and hopes. And so I want to make their dreams come true through their clothing as one aspect of their, yes, the little hat.
Yeah, I can't see it really well because of the light.
It's
Oh, here
wire.
we go.
It's
wire. Let me see.
Besides my sewing, which is my income, my profession, I also have my artistic outlets. And lately this year, I've done some costumes, one for Trash and Fashion here in St. Pete, Marina Williams' wonderful artful gallery.
I'm looking forward to our upcoming Dia de los Muertos party.
Yeah,
It's
I
on
was in
October
that
15th.
last year, and last year I wore a wire bustier I made.
Nice.
That was pretty cool. And then for the Trash and Fashion, I crocheted a dress, a beautiful dress, out of Walmart, Publix, and CVS plastic shopping bags.
Yes, you did. And
That was
phenomenal.
yeah, and I made a hat out of a washing machine box, 3 feet in diameter, this big circle. And I laced it, it was in 6 or 7 pieces, and I laced it together with jute rope and made plastic flowers on it and wore that with it. And then there was the Dunedin Wearable Art Show just the end of August. That I can't even describe that outfit. That had a hat that was 3 feet square out of 1/2-inch fencing with silk strips, colored strips hanging from it, and bells on the hat, and this dress. It was just lots of fun. So.
I'm sorry, here I'm staring at the audio, making sure that's going well. I'm so sorry, I keep on distracting her. I need to fix this. You know, as you were talking, because I know of the events that these pieces participated in, and like I said, as you're talking, all these thoughts start rushing through my head because of the creativity thought process behind it. Now, again, going back to that multi-talented, and so it starts off as she is a fashion, I want to make sure, a seamstress.
I'm a master tailor.
A master
It's more than
tailor.
seamstress.
There you
I
go.
do it all.
So she is a master tailor that by profession, there's not a piece of fabric, a piece of clothing that she cannot work with. And as she mentioned, part of her style is because she goes beyond the layers. She goes many layers deep. It goes beyond just the fabric. It's how that fabric's going to fit on your body, or what is it that you want to accomplish, where is it that you're going. So she really combines many elements to bring these pieces to life. While doing that, it's definitely an art form that, since she does it on a daily basis as a profession, which generates income, she's also been able to stay true to her creative side, combining it with functionality. Mm-hmm. And that's where those plastic bags come into play for me, you know, and talking. So you're recycling, which, by the way, please, I don't know if you need any more, but I have a bag. I've been saving them.
We're done.
So you're done with them? I have to take them to Publix because there's 2 artists that I've been hoarding for. One is for Nancy. She didn't know it, but I have all these bags I've been saving. And then for Cynthia Linden, these bottles. I have a cupboard full of nothing, meaning empty bottles and plastic bags that now I'm ready to get rid of. So if you don't need them, they're going back to Publix.
Good. That's good.
But you've taken day-to-day items and you've refurbished them, you recycle them, and you create them into wearable art. Where did how did you go through that process to get there?
In what way?
Well, I would have never looked at a plastic bag to decide that I can make a dress out of it.
How do the ideas come to me, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
My life has apparently so far been built, I would say, solely on inspiration. I have never sat down and said, gee, I'd like to write a book. Gee, I'd like to crochet a dress out of plastic trash bags. It's all flashes. They're flashes in my head. Oh, there's an event. Gee, I'd like to participate in that. And then this idea just comes full blown in my head. It just shows up. And I go like, wow, that's pretty cool. I think I'll do that. So it's like an external thought process that bestows itself on me. It's
Well,
really
when you say
interesting.
something interesting also, though, it's not only that the thought comes, because if I said it once, I've said it a million times. When I get a thought, when I get an idea, I can assure you there's a million people around the world that are getting that same idea
Sure.
at the same time. However, it's how you act upon it.
I've just learned that that's my best fountain of whatever, of being, just being me. You know, I wrote a book, and it came through dreams. And then there's this outer something says, you didn't really need to write a story about that dream. You can flesh it out quite nicely. And I'm going like, yeah, I'd rather go back to sleep now. Thanks, leave me alone. So I wrote the book. I illustrated it. I got it published. It's in the Manatee County Libraries now.
Nice.
Which I think is pretty cool. And I made a hand bound.
Did you
painted
sell the
copy.
book?
Yeah, it's sold.
Is it
I haven't
still for sale?
advertised it. It's on Amazon.
What's the name of the book?
It's called The Sandgates.
Wow.
It is, I called it metaphysical fantasy, but it's a book about a young girl's daring. Her daring to step out and be herself.
So you wrote about all of us.
That's right. It's a multi-autobiography of the life of girl.
That's very cool. I did
Yeah.
not. You see, I think, or even though I always tell Nancy, don't say anything else. I want to interview you. You know, I want you to come on the radio show and we talk there. I just learned something new about you that I had no idea. So, and again, I'm gonna want to find it. So I'm asking this for my own self. So I can find it on Amazon,
You can.
and it's under the name of
We can. I guess you can. I think I've looked at it for the Sandgates and under Nancy Nix.
Sandgates.
I
Okay,
think that
cool.
worked also.
Sandgates. How cool is that? Now I'm
Yeah.
looking forward
Yeah,
to
I
it.
illustrated it. and
Have
did all
you
the
ever
plans.
had a book signing?
No.
Oh
I haven't
my
done
gosh.
a whole lot with it. I talked about it, but I haven't done a whole lot
She's
about
here
it.
now. I'll give you a prime
You know
example.
what I thought was interesting about that story is I started it in 1994, did the major part by 96, got it copywritten. And then it sat for a while, and I moved to Florida. And I'd say 12 years after I had started it, I did the last third because I thought, it needs a little bit more, and then I did the illustrations.
Is it like a coffee table book?
No, it's 360 some pages.
Wow.
And so it was just, it was an interesting process. Just the whole
It's
thing.
interesting to say that because and we go back interesting, but it is interesting because, okay, so I have these cards that were a gift. They go by being your angel cards, and they only have good news in there, no bad news. And it says it on the box. These only have good news, from your angels. So it's a nice thing to do. So sometimes I will go and just check out my cards. I'll, shuffle it and pick one, or sometimes it just falls out on its own, and I read it. And I had received a card that said that I had to pay attention to my dreams and start writing. That even though if I don't remember the dream, keep a pen and a book next to my bed.
Oh,
And even if it's the next morning, immediately sit there even when you don't think you can remember it, sit there with the pen and start and it will come back and it's going to start
Mine
unfolding.
never come back. The way it's worked with me is the story just starts coming into my head around 5 o'clock in the morning. Wakes me
Isn't
up.
that fun?
And I'm going like, oh my gosh, I have to get up and write this down. Yeah, you have to get up and write this down. No, I'd rather go to sleep. No, get up and write this down. It's happened at about 1 or 2 in the morning too. The whole thing will just pour itself onto the page. And one time it was so intense It woke me up. I started writing it, and one part of me was writing it with such authority, and the other part of me was going like, what on earth are you writing? I have no idea what on earth this is until I got to the last sentence and I went, oh, that's what it is, and that's where it fits into the story, and I didn't change a word in it. But
Wow,
I could not
fascinated by that.
recreate it. There's no way I could recreate it the
I
next
agree.
morning unless I wrote it down as it was happening. It's just,
So, and that's what I have to learn how to do. I have to follow that first instinct and just immediately go to it because I'm with you. It does not come back, to me at least.
to me, not to me.
It may, some other things, but it does not come back that easily. But I'm learning to be in tune. Right now, I'm very much looking forward to the unveiling on November 10th of the game. And again, I started talking about it a little earlier that we're having that unveiling at the Museum of Fine Arts. And what it is, it's a blind collaboration of artists that are playing this game by the name of Exquisite Corpse, and they don't know who they're collaborating with. All they do know is the part of the body that they're doing. So it would either be a head, torso, or legs. And once that exhibit happens on November 10th, because all my energy right now focus is on that to make sure, that's my part of playing the game. I'm playing the game also right now. Once that happens, though, I am committing right now, right here, to my writing. But I love the way you said, I never said I was going to write a book. I never said I was going to do this, and I think that's, you just like, for me, I was like, oh, because I've been saying for the longest time that I'm going to write a book. And I write here and I write there and I write a little bit and I can relate to that part of, sometimes I write stuff and I'm thinking, what the heck did I just write? And because I know I'm writing it and it's coming, but at the same time, then when I go back and I read it, I'm like, I wrote that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. But then again, my husband reads it and he's like, okay. Because I do write things that I think are most people would consider out there, but that's me.
Well, one thing I wanted to remember when I wrote The Sand Gates, yeah, it was a cool story, and yeah, a lot of people really liked it. Even men liked it. That was kind of a surprise. It was pretty cool. Different age groups liked it. That was pretty cool. But now, looking back on it all these years afterwards, from 1994 to 2016, what I wrote about in there and some of the ideas I have in there are now what people are giving seminars on and talking about. It's relevant today, but it wasn't so relevant back then. And I look at that story and think, wow.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be my next question, though. Since you mentioned the time frame, and in there was like a 12-year period, I'm thinking, so is the book still relevant?
Oh, it's more relevant now because people can relate to it more. Back then, it was a great story, but it was we weren't talking in that vocabulary. We weren't talking in personal growth vocabulary like we are now. So I was like a little ahead of the time. And my mother's darling that she is, back when in '96, she says, "Don't expect me to read that book. That's not my genre." And I said, "Okay, Mom, that's okay. That's okay." And then in the 2000 and something, when I had finally illustrated, I was telling her about it. I finished up, and now that you can do self-publishing, I'm like, yeah, now I have an outlet. I can do something with it. She says, "Wow, you've really stuck with that book. I guess I'll have to read it." So she read it, and her girlfriend read it in the assisted living place where they live. She says, "Well, I have to admit, I really liked it." and her friend loved it. She says, "Okay, when's the next one coming out?" So I know, like, yeah, that's great. So now she's a fan.
Well, and that would be my mother. I could hear my mother, but not as nice as your mother, just saying, "Oh, it's not my genre." My mom would be like, "Oh, I don't have time to read no book." I could just hear her right now. And that would be it. That would be the end of that.
If that's what it is, that's what it is.
Isn't it amazing, though, that the people that are closest to us sometimes are like, not very great motivators. Or, well, then it depends on people in your life, of course, but let me rephrase that. It's not that they're not great motivators. They're the most critical of us. You know, the ones that are closer,
it's
they
a
take
mixed
it
bag.
for granted. Like it's easier for me to get somebody in India to respond or read something of mine and to like a post versus some of the people that are in my own circle closest to me.
My dad was the one who unfailingly encouraged me and paid for all the supplies for a long time for me to try out everything. They weren't, my mother was more peripheral. But they both let me try everything I wanted to try out. They weren't the type of parents who said, well, you made your bed, you gotta lie in it, you started, you gotta finish it. They let me hop from thing to thing because my idea, and I'm looking at my children and parenting and encouraging just our friends and the people around us. If you don't like something, you're not suited for it, why stick with it? You have to try. It's like a smorgasbord. Art is a smorgasbord. You have to try everything out. A lot won't work for you, and there are some things that will. But if you stick with something to the exclusion of other things, you have missed opportunities.
Believe it or not, we're running out of time here. And before we go, I want to make sure we cover a few things here because you are you're multi-talented, and based on what you were just saying, focusing, etc., you do woodwork, you can do clothing out of recycled materials, you can create garments from a scratch. You can do all these things. You have all these talents. How did you know which was the main one for you? Because here's my point. Most people I know, I call it first, most artists I know are all ADD. I call it artist distraction disorder. And
I don't have that.
For the most part, most artists that I know, they can do it all. They can paint. If they dabble into music, they have, whatever they choose to dabble into within the arts, they can do it. And there's always this desire. So if you're a sculptor, well, I like to do a painting, and that's part of the reason why we have this game also, and to create those opportunities to come out of the box and do something different. With though having so many talents, how have you chosen? How did you know that this was my main and this is what
It just sort of happened. My dad said when I was 23, well, Nancy, you never know what life is going to do to you. You really need to be trained in a trade of some sort. I said, I sew. And he said, oh, that doesn't count. But then eventually it did and just sort of evolved. And he said, it just evolved. It fills a need, and there's not a lot of people to do it.
For something to evolve, though, you have to want it to evolve. I'm going to tell you right now, there's a combination of things, because if
not necessarily,
you had to take some initiatives, and there had to be something there on your part that happened in order for it to be able to evolve.
I needed to survive, and I was married at the time, and he did tailoring work, and he didn't teach me, but we both did the same thing.
See, and that's what I wanted
to door, and I had to work, and it just kind of evolved.
There we go. But there was something that motivated.
There was a motivator, yeah.
And the reason why I say that, because now what I heard also is your dad said, and which is one of my biggest pet peeves in the world, and it continues to happen all the time still in this day and age, you have to have something to fall back on. But you didn't. You went ahead with your, with being a tailor. You became a tailor, and you were passionate about it, and you made it happen, and it evolved. But somebody told you shouldn't. However, you did. So there has to be.
I don't listen to things like that. I can always do my own thing.
There you go.
Yeah, I just do my own thing. Because if I feel it's solid in me, or if I feel it's right, and you have that internal motivation and permission, I don't care what people say particularly.
And that is key because so many artists, you see, as an artist, you're taking yourself and you're putting yourself out there for other people to decide if they like your artwork or not.
Yeah.
And you have to be secure in your own skin, understanding from the get-go, this is what I like. And if I like it, and this is my gift to the world, I'm sharing it with you.
There'll be enough people who would appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I think that the more, and I hope that any artist, emerging artist, existing artist, the more you connect with that thought, with being true to you, because it is difficult as an artist to be able to stay true to that channel, because as a working artist, you have to make a living and you're going to have to do things that you don't like to do. And I'll give a prime example. Let's say if you're a painting artist, one thing is going into your studio and painting whatever you feel like at that moment, or having to go in there and paint somebody's portrait, a dog, or something that they commissioned you for that you normally would not paint, but you're going to do it because you have to pay the bills.
I don't look at it that way. What someone said to me, don't you get burned out with sewing? I'm burned out with my art. And I'm going like, well, no. And the reason is because everybody I work with, sewing wise, is a different person. And so, and especially in the custom clothing area, I don't design clothes I don't design something and give it to somebody as a design. I co-create with the people. I never give them what I think they should wear. I give them what their dreams tell them they would like to wear.
This is
and
why
it keeps it fresh. It keeps my work fresh all the time. Because if you would line up all the people I've ever sewed for, you couldn't tell it was Nancy that made the dresses because they're all so radically different from each other. There's not one style. And so if I had to design clothing and put a line out, I'd be in my head all day, every day. It'd drive me crazy. I'm not in my head. I'm in other people's hearts and their heads. And so I am living my life, my creative life. I am the hands of their imagination. Now, you tell me kind of what you want, and I can help you create that vision.
And that it's all in how we view things. And I cannot think of a better outlook because what you have just expressed, and I can tell you because I talk to artists all the time. And based on what you just expressed, if more and more can learn how to be in the moment, not just do, you need to be.
I commune with the people. It's just a communion.
She is a true artist, and I think anybody that gets the opportunity to get some work done through Nancy, some garments done through Nancy, is just very fortunate. I am one of those. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Nancy, what you have just said, all your words just resonated incredibly, and I don't get sensationalized or amazed easily. And it's not that I'm sensationalized, but I'm like in whoa. And you took this conversation to exactly where it needed to be for people like myself and many others out there to get the opportunity to hear this firsthand that it can be done. Before we go, any thoughts, any words of wisdoms you'd like to leave our audience with in addition to the ones you've already provided?
Oh, wisdom. There's enough wisdom. I think you've shared pretty much how I view my work and how I have aligned my life with inspiration. And I'm just one of the type of people who actually follow the inspiration. Every time the inspiration, like the really strong ones come, it's always been a life changer and it's always been good.
So what you're saying is to follow your first instinct? Listen to your own self?
I think everybody receives universal motivation in different forms.
Yeah.
This is my form, how I've received it, but not everybody is going to get things that way. The other people, it just doesn't work one size fits all. just to try to be in tune and pay attention to what's happening in your own life, to see how things come to you, and you play with it. You try, you respond to it, you don't respond to it, you see what happens, and you work with it.
There you have it, words from what I consider a true artist. That's the magic that happens every day here around in St. Petersburg, Florida, because I do know that as Nancy thinks and just said, we have many, many that are doing the same as well, and it's just creating this magical synergy. Mm-hmm. I cannot thank you enough for being with me here today. How can people reach you if they would like to get some, something done?
Right now, my website is in flux.
So you have a Facebook page where
I have a Facebook page. It's public.
So it's Nancy Niss.
It's Nancy Niss. So
go there. You have it. You can go to Facebook and find Nancy Niss. N-I-S-S.
There are pictures in the photo section that have my furniture and clothing, some of the clothing designs, and my fabulous Megan Beckler 50th sewing anniversary portrait of the sewing goddess.
Oh, I saw that last year.
I woke up with this idea, and I said, Megan, come over and take a picture of me lying on my ironing table. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely stunning. She did a great job.
Well, it takes two. It was a great collaboration between the two.
It was a great collaboration.
Because she is very good capturing. She gets in the moment as well.
She has a marvelous imagination.
I could see that. That was a great collaboration between the two.
Oh, yeah.
That's phenomenal. Thank you so much for being with me here.
Come over and play.
Thank you. And you have been listening to Connected Dots with Anne-Marie. We are all connected in one way or another. And this show is about people empowering people, preferably through the arts, and airs every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Oh, also on Fab Radio International on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, hasta la vista, hasta luego, until next week. And, shine. Now I am turning off YouTube.